let's move into oxytocin now that I'm off my soapbox. Now, how are these two related? Well, let me go back to my slide here. This conversion right here, oxytocin plays a role in. Okay, this conversion from testosterone to DHT, oxytocin is involved in that conversion. Okay, so it's important in that way, but it's also extremely important for erections. In fact, it's one of the most potent agents they found to induce penile erections. Most guys don't know that. And we're going to get into the in depth on that. But before I do, I want you to understand the difference between how oxytocin works in men versus women. Because when you understand this, it's going to help you understand your partner much better and bond with your partner much better. Okay, and vice versa. It's much better if each gender understands the other gender so much better, because then a lot of times we just misunderstand each other because we're different, right? And this is a perfect example of this, how oxytocin and testosterone work differently in men and women. So let me bring this up. First of all, let me talk about men. And I know this is going to seem like it's off topic, but it's not, because it's going to make sense in a second. So I'm going to talk about testosterone first. Testosterone and cortisol are inversely related. Okay, so what that means is when your cortisol goes up, okay, your testosterone goes down. So cortisol is the stress hormone. So when you're feeling more stressed, more and more stressed, your testosterone starts to tank. Now, the good news is if you bring your testosterone up, it will tank your cortisol. So you can work the other way, which is great. Doing activities that increase testosterone. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Now, this is not how it works with women, though. That's the important thing to understand. Testosterone is not inversely correlated with cortisol. In other words, raising testosterone in a woman will not decrease her stress levels, okay? Or vice versa. It will increase her libido, her sex drive, but it won't decrease her stress, okay? It will in men, okay? For women, it's oxytocin, okay? When oxytocin goes up, cortisol comes down. Okay, and when cortisol comes up, oxytocin comes down. And if you can kind of picture this, think about this for a second. Maybe you've been in this scenario. I certainly have. I think most couples have, where, one of the things that increase testosterone massively is sex, having sex. Okay. And for a man, okay, sometimes when he's really stressed out, okay, having sex actually decreases his stress, right? So it's actually a stress reliever for him. And, which we'll learn in a minute, when he ejaculates, his body gets flooded with oxytocin. And oxytocin is the bonding chemical, okay? When you're like hugging your partner, or you're cuddling with your partner, or you're spooning, you're producing a lot of oxytocin, which is great for the both of you because you're bonding. And it's also helping your erections. And it's helping her stress levels, right? If you think about that. But it doesn't work that way for women. So there can be a lot of frustration and misunderstanding between the genders because of this. Because the guy, sometimes if they're so stressed out, they just want to have sex, and then they bond. Then they feel like they can bond. But for women, it can feel very much like they're being used, because that sex is not decreasing their cortisol the same way it is for men, right? They need the oxytocin first. And that brings them down. The bonding first, right? The hugging and the bonding and the cuddling and the connecting, okay? When that happens, then their cortisol comes down. Then they're much more receptive to when that testosterone goes up and the arousal goes up to having sex. Right. So That's where a lot of the misunderstanding comes, right? And I think it's so helpful if both genders understand this and how this works. But I will say, as men, it is really our responsibility. It's really more important as men to understand this, okay? Because you don't want your woman to feel used, and you don't want to repeat those experiences, right? Because then she's going to back off from sex. She's going to, he just wants to use me for sex and then cuddle. There is a chemical reason for that, okay? But it's important you understand it so you understand where you're coming from. But I highly recommend you bond with her first, okay? You get a lot of bonding in and create that oxytocin so you don't create negative sexual experiences. All right? Now, I'm going to dive deeper into that. So let's talk about, because in a second here, I'm going to talk about how oxytocin is so powerful on your erections. Okay. So that's coming. But what I want to talk about is a strategy because we were just talking about how it's important to bond with your woman for that oxytocin to get going, for her stress levels to come down, right? For that connection to happen before the sex happens. Hey man, I hope you got a ton out of this segment of the EBAI Erection Biochemicals Alpha Inhibitor video series, where we are diving deep into overcoming this insidious alpha inhibitor that is blocking our birthright of having natural, long-lasting, stage 4, rock-hard erections. If you'd like to get free access to the entire EBAI Erection Biochemicals Alpha Inhibitor video series, make sure you click the link in the description of this video to register for free access to all of these life-changing videos in this series, along with some other surprise bonuses. Also, if you like this video, make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, and turn on the notifications bell so you get all of the future value-packed videos just like this that I will be releasing for you to help you be the best version of yourself and have natural, stage 4, rock-solid performance. I will see you tomorrow in the next EBAI Erection Biochemicals Alpha Inhibitor video.